Well, this is Catherine Schneider from the Fitchburg Historical Society, and we are continuing our series of interviews with community leaders about how the pandemic has impacted various aspects of the Verona community, of Fitchburg community. And so today we have the pleasure of interviewing Kerri Modjeski, who is the principal at Forest Edge Elementary School. So Kerri, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
You bet.
And I just being a new principal at Forest Edge, or the new school in Oregon School District, would you just orient us a little bit toward the school, where it's located, first of all, in
Mhm.
Fitchburg, and then maybe what's unique about the building itself and the students you serve there, your attendance district. Would you tell us just get us
Sure,
acquainted with Forest
you
Edge?
bet. So our school, you can't miss it once you know what you're looking for. We're located off of 14. If you exited Lacey Road toward McFarland, we are in a pocket of a neighborhood called Terravessa. That neighborhood will be home to about 1,200 units for people to live in, apartments, condos, homes, and it's amazing how quickly that's going up. Our school borders a forest, which we purchased portions of for a school forest for our district. So obviously we got our name from Forest Edge. And it was great to have kids part of that naming right. We had some votes at the end of last school year where kids submitted entries as to what they wanted it to be named. And we were down to Nine Springs School or Forest Edge. And so the votes came in to be Forest Edge. Makes good sense if you know our location. One of the neatest things about our school is we are the first net zero school in our state, which means we actually generate more power than we use. And so it's been fun to kind of see those, I guess I would say, for lack of a better term, gauges adjusting and showing our power usage, and to use technology and geothermal heating and all the products that went into making this happen. So there are no gas lines to our school. We are running off of solar energy and battery power, essentially. So that is a unique characteristic. So our district, though, is really quite big. And I might have mentioned before that we are almost shaped like the state of Illinois. We're long and narrow in terms of districts. So we stretch up almost directly to the Beltline and all the way down to Rock and Greene County lines. So the district itself is about 88 square miles. And that is a lot of kids and growing and growing and growing. So we knew that we had to build something in response to that growth. And by studies with Mark Roffer's firm out of Madison, we learned that our district has the most kids per household in any district in the county. So when we looked at where kids move in or where our population was exploding, it was kind of that intermediate age group. So we toyed with all sorts of configurations for schools, and we landed on a K-6. Knowing our intermediate school in the district was becoming quite overcrowded, we needed a place for fifth and sixth grade to be while we continued to study the growth. So we are the only site in our district that serves kindergarten through grade 6, which I love because we have a lot of opportunities for our big kids to work with our little kids, and it's been spectacular. But eventually, 4, 5, 6 years out, we will likely go to build a new middle school. At that point, sixth grade will go away and all of our existing elementary sites will be K-5 schools. So we're kind of in a holding pattern right now, which I'm thrilled about because it's fun to have all those age bands, but it will change again in the next decade, I would predict. So kids in our school generally are north of, I'm guessing about Sain Road, come here. However, south of Sain and into Oregon, there's an area where families can still choose to come here or go to their assigned elementary. So we have some flexibility. And in this first year, we tried really hard to kind of stack our upper grades because we knew they wouldn't be here for very long if they came in at fifth grade and sixth grade, because we also need to reserve room for the growth that's coming out of the neighborhood next door. So I think we had hoped to be in year one at about 325 kids. We did hit 360 to start our year, which was great. And we will continue to add classrooms and sections as we grow in our district. and we can cap out at about 600 kids. So it's fun to kind of watch all this develop. And literally before my eyes, as I peek out and see new rooftops going in Terravessa, I can only anticipate that those people will have some kids coming our way for fall.
Mm, thank you, Kerri. That really gives us an idea of the school and its uniqueness, its beautiful
Mhm.
location there.
Yeah.
And I hope people will take note of also your information about the way the environment is really part of
Mhm.
such an important part of the way the school is set up and caring for the environment.
Yep,
Um,
for sure.
so, do you want to touch on just very briefly why Oregon School District is located in Fitchburg?
Yep, you cut out there a little bit, but I think you were asking about why we located in Fitchburg.
Hmm. Hmm.
We built in Fitchburg because that's where we knew the projected growth would happen. And so we wanted to put a school where the kids were going to be to capture that neighborhood kind of feeling. And we knew by geographically having two elementary schools in town and one on the southern part of our district at Brooklyn Elementary, we needed something on the north because that is exactly where all the kids were going to be coming from. So it just
Hmm.
made good common sense to build in this area. And lots of people don't know that Fitchburg is split a bit between Madison, Verona, and Oregon school districts. So these are our kids that we've always serviced in Oregon, and now we're able to service them closer to home.
Wonderful. And then just going into the pandemic for this
Mhm.
year that we've had, um, we started to realize, I think, the seriousness of that maybe in about March of 2020. And I
Sure.
wonder if you can talk about the maybe the initial response of the school
Mhm.
district to those first months with the pandemic, and then particularly in regard to getting ready to open a new elementary school.
Yeah, I don't know that I want to relive any of that. But I would highly compliment our district office team, our administrative team, and then our staff that was just so flexible. So, in a regular kind of school year, opening a new school is a big deal, and staffing it, and meeting your people, and building your team. We did not have the luxury of that in a traditional way. So I jokingly have said to a few people, I was worried I hired people I might not even recognize when they come in because we were doing this all in this format. So we did a lot of team building electronically. We did some contests and some gatherings just so we could get to know each other. Most of our staff came from one of four existing sites in our district. However, we also hired new staff from outside the district. So it became this interesting mix of leaders, learners, educators coming together who we didn't even really know each other. So being really creative about that. But I think we were bound together by that commitment for we're going to get through this. We're going to program for kids. We're going to love kids in new ways. We're going to figure this out. When we first closed last March, I was still at Brooklyn Elementary. And I remember just being flabbergasted that this would even last more than 2 weeks. And yet here we are, over a year later. So I think what grounded our work was really focusing on the whole child and what they would need and how we could support kids, families, and each other as we went through these times. I would argue that at both sites where I was previously and where I am now, I would argue that teachers know their kids better than ever because of the little things that they've been privy to. They might have met their pet dog. They've met the parents and had more interactions. They even know what they've had for breakfast because of the things happening on the screen. I think teachers got a better sense of who the kids were. And there's been a strong focus on just really being flexible and adaptive. And now at this point of year is when I'm checking out with teachers and doing their end of the year summaries and evaluations. In almost everyone, we've kind of chuckled about everything we've been through, and we're stronger because of it. All the instructional changes, how we service kids, all the learning with technology. It just blows my mind that anything going forward almost seems easier because we've been on this, I guess, a hamster wheel, just kept running and keeping up with what needed to be done to make the best program for our kids.
Hmm. And you said that in such a succinct way Kerri, along with all of your examples of to love kids in a new way.
Mhm. Mhm.
Such a
True.
beautiful way to put it. Um, well, so there's a steep learning curve, obviously, for
Mhm.
everyone. Um, would you care to comment from your perspective and describe, maybe the stressors that were felt on the part of, the students, the teachers, the parents, and the
Mhm.
administrators, what as they were adjusting to this new life with COVID?
I think the unknowns are what maybe haunted us the most because you didn't ever know when a new change was coming forward. We started the year virtually. Then we eased in our K2 students for half days. And then in January, we added our 3, 4, 5, 6 in for half days. And then in April, I want to say April 19th, we had everybody back for full days, 4 days a week. I think we saw a real distinct panic before each transition because every time we made a change, there were just a bajillion new things to figure out. What bathrooms to use, how to do lunch was a big one. How do we do recess? Do we do recess? How do we do classes where kids typically would travel to, like art, FIED, music? How would we do band or vocal music where part of that is putting off things from your mouth? And how do we keep our programming as pure and as authentic as we could, given the parameters we had? And when we came to this last big push in April of the 4 days a week, that probably had the most changes. But everybody, I just kept reminding them, we've already been through so much more. This should be the easiest transition to return to because it's what we know. And
Mm.
so when you look through it to the lens of kids, kids have been absolutely unbelievably resilient. I've commented to many people who have asked, "Oh, how's the new school?" That I don't know what kind of pixie dust was sprinkled up here, but these kids are the nicest, sweetest, adorable, kind kids. And I almost wonder if they were craving that social interaction after being in their homes for so long. Like it was exciting to see new friends and old faces, and oh, they didn't know their teacher from the other school was now working here. That I think they had a comfort level because they were returning to adults maybe they knew from other places. I don't know. The kids have been great. Teachers have found amazing ways to connect with families and kids in the virtual world and in the real physical classroom. Parents have had to adapt to all of our changing structures. I myself am thankful my kids are old enough to be home alone. I can't imagine all the things families of little kids had to do to find care and support and work, but they've done it. They've been amazing. All while everyone was keeping safety at their forefront and ensuring that we had the best programming possible given our circumstances. And I think we've done it. I think everybody's done their part, that we're sliding into the summer with a pretty good looking year despite all the changes.
Mm, great. That's just so good to hear, Kerri, because I'm sure that has not been an easy year.
No.
So, so, so much to adapt to in so many different ways. Um, so the first year is complete now, almost done. This is
Mhm.
May of 2021. Um, what challenges do you think you've met that have given you maybe the most satisfaction from this past year?
Sure. I guess the biggest one that comes to mind is I have known for, gosh, 4 years that I would be coming here. And visually, it was amazing to see the building when it came together. After having sat on committees about carpet, furniture, placement, designs, like a whole education on how this came to be, and several years prior to it actually being built. I have pictures of the land when we were out looking for trees in March of 2019 that would be harvested for the building, but then used within the building for benches and some cabinetry. And so I think about that, and then all of a sudden, here we are with this fantastic building. So that's the first thing. But I think the biggest sense of accomplishment was one of those first days that we had full days back, all of our kids on site. that were in person at that time. And I snapped a picture of kids playing in one of our courtyards. And I looked around and there were fingerprints on windows and there were a few smushed goldfish crackers in the cafeteria floor. And there was a kid that was doing a painting project in my office. And I looked around and I thought, this is how it's supposed to be. We had gone through such a weird year of everything feeling different, that having everyone back and the spaces being used like they were intended was such a powerful moment. And so I snapped just a few pictures thinking, I got to capture this because this is real now. And it seemed real. And so thinking about that, parents and families, community members, and such have not had that opportunity to have a grand opening. We had put that on pause. So we are looking to do that kind of event this summer, a maybe year late ribbon cutting, but also, returning to some of our practices that we had to abandon. Like I mentioned, band, orchestra, concerts, plays, art shows, science fairs. I'm so excited for those things to come back because that's the spirit and the energy of the school when you have those types of events. Yeah, we've done some and we've done them differently in the past, but I'm excited for the building to come to life in full force.
Mm, beautifully said. And then looking at yourself as an educator, in what ways do you think student learning, as well as the students themselves, have been affected by the pandemic?
Good question. Boy, we have learned a lot, and I'm going to reference something that a little boy said who's in fourth grade right now. A colleague of mine asked him something about what his favorite memory of school was. And he thought about it for a moment and he said, the play that I was in kindergarten. And that really gave us both pause to think for a moment about, golly, what can we do to have more engaging experiences? So, this little guy who's 10, his best memory was from 5 years ago. So, we've looked at what we do in the virtual world and in this shortened time, the schedule we've had, we've really whittled down to essential standards. What do kids really need to know, and how do we guide our instruction to match that? I would love in a world if we could continue on that path and find some more ways to engage students. We're lucky to we have a naturalist program that has some amazing events for kids after school. We're starting to dabble back into some of the art, music, drama, and those events. But I think we can really take a moment to look at how can we really program our learning so that we're expanding opportunities for kids. And this little guy, I've known him since he went to my old site, really doesn't know it, but he's really made my wheels turn late at night for how we can service kids more effectively so that they're having those moments more often. Um, I think that because of how this year has been, I believe we have a stronger connection to families because they've had a peek into the classroom, like from their living room. They've seen the learning, they understand what the kids are working on. And as a result, they can find ways to support their child as well, whether it be reading, math, science, social studies, and find ways to use the same language we're using, find ways to connect ideas for their children. So I think there are some big bright spots we can learn from this extended year of crazy, because I think what held it together was the compassion and kindness from all the parties working together with that spirit of we're gonna figure this out despite COVID.
Mm, mm. Compassion and kindness being at the
Hmm.
heart of what
Hmm.
this school year was about and meeting those challenges. Um, so, Kerri, what do you think, finally, to sum up, maybe anything else that we haven't talked about that you wanted to bring forward? And then maybe your sharing, if you'd care to, what your hopes are for the future.
For sure. One thing I haven't mentioned, and I look at this through the lens of my own children who are in the district and the children here at Forest Edge, the amount of flexibility, resilience, and adaptability they have demonstrated. Boy, oh boy, they can problem solve technology. There is a new sense of confidence in kids and how they can communicate with their adults that they almost see the adults as guides on the side helping them with their learning. It's a more interactive setting where it's fun now. Like I get emails from kids, hey, can you send me the lunch menu? Or kids popping in my office to comment on a joke they heard. I think kids also see that we're all in this together and they've learned some pretty strong life skills from this time in the last school year. But when I think about what the biggest picture is, oh boy, it's certainly while it's been a unique year, I hate the term return to normal because I really think in the end we can return to better. We can take what we've learned from these 14, 16, however many months we are into this, and find new ways to be bright spots for kids. And we can do that through our programming, how we interact with kids, the opportunities we give. But I do believe something better is coming for our kids and for our school systems.
Wonderful. Kerri, thank you for letting us have a peek at what's been going on at Forest Edge this year, and how resilient everyone involved there
Mhm.
has been to come through this time period. It's really inspirational to hear. And
Thank you.
congratulations to you, your staff, the students, the parents on all that has been accomplished this year. And in spite of, and perhaps sometimes because of the pandemic that we've had to live through. So
Right.
thank you so much, Kerri.
Thank
And
you. And we hope we can get people in for a ribbon cutting and a tour over the summer.
that would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. And I just
Awesome.
want to remind people also that the interview with Kerri will be on our Fitchburg historical site. So that's fitchburghistory.org. So that can be viewed in the future also. So anyway, good luck with the coming year, Kerri, and all that
Thank
has been
you.
accomplished with the school this year. Wonderful things
Fantastic.
happening over there. So take good
Awesome.
care. Take good care.
Thank you, Catherine. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Thank you also. Bye-bye.